Right, welcome back. In this video, we will look at using images in Flutter. Now, this will just be the basics. So what I want you to do is to go to this website, http://bit.ly/images Flutter. And then when going to that link, you'll find a zip file that you can download, and it will contain a folder called images, and you will see this as your images folder. So what have I done here? In order to help Flutter help me with images, I need to give it some folders and some files. So you'll see that I've started off with a profile picture here. And if I'm going to get the info of this picture, you will see then that the dimensions is 300 by something. So this one is 300. If I go into 2 times, you can see it's exactly the same name, profile.jpg, and it's still profile.jpg. But this one, if I go to get info, you'll see it's 2 times the previous one. So it's 600 by something, 2 times. Now if I go to 3 times, the same name again, but you'll see that it's 3 times 300, which will give you 900 there. So I've resized my pictures so that I've got at least 3 versions of it. That's got the original, 2 times the original, and 3 times the original. So these are the folders that you're going to name. Okay, so now let's go back to Flutter and see how we can include this now into our project. And basically what's going to happen is you're going to test using this normal profile picture on the smallest possible device. And then because you have the 2 times and the 3 times folder, Flutter will automatically choose either this one or this one, depending on the size of your device. Now let's go to Flutter. If you open up Visual Studio Code, I created a new project folder called Image Example. Now under Image Example, we will need to go and create a folder now for our assets. So like previously, just click on one of the top level files, for example, your pubspec.yaml, and then you're going to click on creating a new folder. And we're going to call that folder Assets. Inside of the Assets folder, I want to create an Images folder now. So you can call this folder what you want. It doesn't matter. You don't need to call it images. Like we did the previous example, we did fonts, for example, also. So in your assets folder, you'll have images, you'll have fonts, and maybe animations or whatever you want to have there. So in this images folder now is where I want to place those images in that folder again. So you can copy these. I'm going to copy it. Then go into your project folder. Mine is called Image Example. So I'm going to go into it. You can see the assets and you can see the images folders created for you. And you can just paste these 3 items now. So it's your profile picture, 2 times the profile picture, and 3 times the profile picture. Okay, so if we go back in your assets images, you can see there's 2 times, 3 times, but every single one of them is named profile. Right, now we need to go to our pubspec.yaml file. And you can see there at the bottom, it shows you the assets folder. Now you can just use control and the / or command and the /, and it will take away the comment there. And this is basically how you use it. So there's assets, and we're going to use the images there. So for now, we're going to have only one image. But to get to that, it's going to be in my assets folder, or my assets will be, let's just replace this, in my assets folder. Under my assets folder is an images folder, and then in that folder I will find profile.jpg. Now let's save this, which will include this picture now as part of your project. Right, now let's go to main.dot. So currently we've got a material app, we've got a scaffold, and the scaffold's got an app bar. So after the app bar, just place a comma there as well. After the app bar then, we will go and add the body of our app. Now in the previous video we did the list view, so I'm going to start with the body of my app as a list view, so we can show a list of pictures or something to just see the different ways of actually using images. Right, so let's start off with the children inside of this list, and the first image that we will look at is the image class itself. So if you look at the constructor of the image class, there's a lot of things you can set for that specific image, but one of the elements that we need to specify is the image. And you can see also it's moaning about that. If you go to the bottom, the parameter image is required. So I'm going to say image there, and the image that I want is an asset image. So we're going to use the asset image, and it's as easy as just specifying the route to get to that specific picture. So I'm going to say assets, images, and then the name is profile.jpg. Now let's run this. Right, and there we've got our picture displayed on the screen. So instead of just using the normal image constructor, we can also use a named constructor that's image.asset. And now we can also just go and indicate the asset name. So that will be assets again, /images /profile.jpg. And let's put a comma at the end. And if we run this again, you will see it's doing exactly the same thing. All right, so there we can see both. This is in a list view, so we can scroll between the pictures. Now let's look at something a bit more interesting. Now go to your browser and search for dog. Now I'm going to take this first picture that I see here, click on that one. I'm going to click on this picture again. It will take me to this website where we can see the picture lives. I'm going to right click and I'm going to say copy the image location. Now if I go to a new tab and I right click that image location, you can see I've got a direct link to this picture. So this is a picture that's hosted somewhere on the internet. So you can use any type of picture that you can get online, and you can choose any one of these others, maybe click on it and make sure you get to that specific link. So what I did was to choose this one, click on it, which takes it to the website where it's actually hosted. And by right clicking and saying copying the image location, I now have direct access to that specific picture. Okay, so this is the link I want to use then. So you can go and search for a link that you can use. Okay, so what I want to do now is to get that image directly from the internet. So in order to do that, I'm going to use the image class again, and then there's another named constructor called network. To get an image from the network, I just need to specify it as some text. So I'm just going to add a comma at the end there, and also a comma at that end before I paste it, because it's quite long. And if I paste it, you can see there, that's the image. Now, let's run this quickly. Right, so you see right from the top, there we have the picture inside of our app. It's not something that's part of our assets folder, but we are getting that picture straight from the internet by using image.network. Now, as part of this, let's just add an enter. Let's click there and add an enter. I think I'm going to remove this part so we have a bit more space to work with. Okay, so what we can also do with this network image that we are retrieving from the internet is we can use a loading builder. Now, if you just leave it there, this will pop up, and let's choose the second one there from the list. So this is a loading builder to have a widget show while this is still loading. So we can have something like an if statement in here that says if the loading progress is equal to null, then we will return the child, which means it's done loading. But if it's not, then we will return a center widget, and the child of that center widget will be a circular progress indicator. Right, so we can have the loading builder as if the loading process is null, progress is null, which means that it's done loading, we return the child, and the child will be this image. Then if it's not, it will return the center widget, and the center widget will show a circular progress indicator. So let's see if that works. Right, so I'm not sure if you saw that. If we run it again, you can see that it shows that circular progress indicator first, and then it will start showing the picture. Now, just remember that we don't need to have actually a progress indicator. We can set some text there, for example, and just say loading. Run it again. Okay, so whatever you return here doesn't really matter. Right, so in order to show some errors using the image.network, it's quite a lot of work to do in order to show errors when downloading or getting pictures back from the internet. So one package that is really helpful is the cached network image package. So if you search for that on the pub.dev webpage, you will get to cached network image. Now, if you click on it, you will see there's installing, and I can use this as the dependency. So let's go back to Visual Studio Code and let's add that to our pubspec.yaml. So let me just get to my files back again. I'm going to go to the pubspec, and just underneath your Cupertino icons, I'm going to place cached network image. I'm going to save it, and this will then include this cached network image package as part of my application. Right, as soon as it's done, we can then go to the main.dart file again, and let's see if we can use this. So I'm going to start at the top again, so that we get our newest images that we're testing right at the top. So I'm going to start typing cached network image, and you can see there it is. There's the class. Now, if you click on it, it automatically adds it at the top. Cached network image, there's the import. Okay, so let's just add a comma at the end, and you can see that one thing is required here, and it's the parameter image URL. So let's use that image URL, but I want to use the same picture of the dog again, so I'm going to copy this. Copy it. And let's use image URL there. And as text, there's the image URL. So just make sure there's a comma at the end. And then I'm going to enter after that. Okay, so that's the image URL. Now, before we run that, let's just go to your web browser and search for placeholder. And if you run through some of these pictures, there's some pictures that you can use for the placeholder. Let's say this one as an example. And we can download this by save image as, and then saving that image wherever you want. And we can then save this image inside of our assets folder, images, and then inside of this folder, I'm going to save that, name it placeholder.png. So if I save that now, and I close this, you will see that as part of my images folder, I have a placeholder.png. So before we do anything with placeholder there, let's go to the pubspec.yaml and make sure that we also add that picture there. So we'll have assets again, images again, and we'll have placeholder.png. Make sure you save again so that it adds it to your project. Now let's go back to our main.dart, and instead of just saying the image URL there, we will say, let's put a placeholder there as well. So the placeholder, let's select the second one there, the context with the URL, and then the placeholder image, I will basically just return an asset image, and the asset, or not the asset image, let's use a normal image, and then inside of that, the image field will be the asset image, and the asset that we want to have is in the assets folder, in the images folder, and it's called placeholder.png. Now let's run this quickly. Okay, so currently you can basically only see our placeholder there. Because we added a new package inside of our pubspec.yaml, which is the cached network image, it's mostly better to stop your application from running and then make sure it runs again so that that newly added package is running fine on your device. So just stop your device from running and just run it again. And that normally solves these type of errors. Right, so mine is starting now. Let's just see if it runs. There it runs. And it's showing that placeholder picture, and then the picture appears. So just a normal restart of your application will normally fix that problem. Okay, so now we've got this picture of the dog there. We've got the placeholder image. And then we can also add an error widget. So if there's something wrong with this URL, for example, so we can actually remove the H there, which means it won't get to that specific picture. And then the error widget will handle that problem for us. And you can see the error widget is just basically using any type of widget there that it needs to return. Same as we did here, we returned for the placeholder any type of widget. So I just used an image. That's a placeholder, but you can show that same text loading, you can show the circular progress bar, or whatever you want to show there. It's really up to you. So let's go back to the error widget. And for the error widget, I want to show you something else. So let's just do that again. Error widget. And you just leave your cursor there. It will pop up this menu. And let's use the top one with the fat arrow. So the widget I want to use here is called an icon. So while we are busy with pictures, let's also see how we can work with icons in Flutter. Now in the icon class, you can see that it needs icon data. So icon data is basically just going to icons and put the dot, that's the icons class, and you will see there's a lot of different icons that we can use. And one of them is called error. And you'll see it gives you an indication of how that icon looks on the left hand side. So that's just basically an exclamation mark. So there's a lot of different icons. For example, you can have a play arrow, for example. And there you can see the little play arrow. So there's different icons that you can use as part of the icons class. So I'm going to use icons.error. Now, as part of the icon class also, there's the icon data, and then there's named arguments. There's a size for the icon, there's a color for the icon. So let's go and give this icon a size. Let's make the size 100, and let's make the color colors.red. Let's save it, and you can see there's your icon. So the error widget will be an icon widget that shows the error icon with a size of 100 and a color of red. Now let's run this again, and because I removed the H there, we should actually see that icon now right from the start. Okay, and there you can see it shows me an error. So that is the error widget, and this is also how you can work with icons by just supplying the specific icon. So it's icons dot whatever icon you're searching for. If you wanted to have a shopping icon, let's say a shopping bag there, and you run it again, you will get a shopping bag there instead of an exclamation mark. Right, so if we go then back and we put that H of HTTPS again and we run it again, it will not show this icon because everything should be fine. So it will show the placeholder first, and then after the image is done loading, you will see the picture. Now the last thing I want to show you for this video is to actually help you a bit to display your images a bit better. So there's two things I want to look at, which is the card, a normal card which got some elevation and rounded corners, and then we will also have a look at the circle avatar. So let's use the card first. So there's a class called card. Now this card class makes it possible for you to add some shadow to your pictures, to add some elevation to the card, to have a shape, and so forth. So let's just look at the basics of a card. The first thing we'll need for this card is obviously a child. What do you want to place on that card? So I'm going to start again with this. Let me just use the simple image network one. And I'm going to take that same picture again. Let's use a network picture. And the child will be image.network. I will do nothing funny there. You can use any of these. You can use the cache network image, whatever. I just want to keep it short now. Now for this network then, we'll need to have the source there, and the source will be a normal string, and there's my source. Okay, let's just put a comma at the end there. Right. Okay, so that's my basic of my card, and if I run it now, okay, you can see it's on the card now. It looks a bit better. There's some padding around it and so forth. Now what we can do also for this card is to give it some elevation. So basically make it a bit more 3D. If I say 10 there, it will seem as if it's lifted from the screen. Okay, I think for now I'm going to remove all of the other widgets that we've got here. So I'm going to remove all of those. Let me just see where this one ends. Let's remove those and let's run this again. Right, so you can see the elevation, there's some shadow at the bottom, and the bigger your elevation, the bigger your shadow will be. So it seems as if it's a bit lifted, a bit higher on the screen. Okay, and then there's also as part of the card view or the card there, we can set some margins also. So let's set a margin there of edge insets.all, and let's give it a value of 8. Right, so that added some more space around the edges of your card. Now, to make this a bit more rounded off, we can use a shape also. Now, if you hover over shape, it needs to have a shape border there. So we will use a rounded rectangle border. And just remember your comma at the end. So it's a rounded rectangle border, which will have a border radius and we're going to use border radius dot circular, and the radius we want to use, let's say a radius of 20, and it removed one bracket at the end there, so just add the bracket and your commas and then run again. Right, so now you can see actually nothing happened. Now in order to fix that, we can just add another one that says clip behavior, and we're going to have clip dot anti-alias. Now if we run this again, you will see my shape with the rounded rectangle border will actually now appear. Right, nicely formatted. Okay, so you can hover over this anti-aliasing, and it says that this mode has anti-aliased clipping edges to achieve a smoother look, and it's much faster than that one, and this will be common case when dealing with circles and arcs. So because we wanted to have that rounded, these circles there, this is why we had to use this clip behavior anti-alias. Okay, so now you can see it's nicely rounded, it's on a card, and I think this looks quite nice. Right, then the last thing I want to show you is using the circle avatar. So for this, I'm going to use a row widget, and in the row widget I will have some children, and the first child there will be the circle avatar. Now you'll see that the circle avatar actually uses or accepts a child widget. It can have a background color, a background image, a foreground image. There's a radius for it. There's a max and a min radius. So we will start off with the background image. And the background image I'm going to use just as, if you hover over it, you can see it is an image provider. So I will use an asset image, and let's just use our profile.jpg again, which will be under assets, images, and profile.jpg. Now let's run this one again. Okay, very small. So let's just make the radius a lot bigger. Let's make the radius a 70 there. Right, so now we have a nice picture there, and maybe for this row, we can have the main axis alignment as main axis alignment dot center. And then we can also add some padding around the row. So just remember your control dot or command dot will bring up this menu. And let's add this with a padding widget, and we'll have a padding of 8. That's fine. Great, and there we've got our avatar or our circle avatar. So like profile pages, normally we'll have this circle type of avatar with the picture inside. So this is some ways on how you can display also your pictures. I hope you learned a lot in this video. See you in the next one.